My parents pressured me to babysit my nephew for free, so I disappeared overnight. And what happened left their family completely shattered and helpless. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and for as long as I can remember, my parents have treated me like free labor, not family. While other kids spent their weekends hanging out with friends, mine were filled with mopping floors, folding laundry, and making dinner for everyone. My parents would always say, "You're such a good helper." But what they really meant was, "You're the one we can depend on to do everything no one else wants to do." My older sister Jessica was the complete opposite. She was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and untouchable. When she got a B on a test, my parents blamed the teacher. When I got an A, they'd say, "Well, of course you did. You had more time since you're not as social as your sister." I didn't realize it back then, but that patterned her glory. My labor became the blueprint for my entire life. Even as adults, nothing changed. Jessica went off to college, traveled, found love, and started her dream career. I stayed behind, still helping out around the house. Because every time I tried to leave, my parents would guilt-trip me. Family helps family. You'll get your turn later. But later never came. I worked odd jobs close to home so I could take care of them, cook meals, and handle bills while Jessica sent postcards from Europe. Then, about a year ago, she had a baby boy. My parents called me that night, voices full of excitement and expectation. "Your sister will need help," Mom said. "Just for a few weeks, until she gets used to motherhood." I wanted to believe it would only be temporary. I really did, but deep down, I felt that old, familiar weight settle on my chest. I already knew what a few weeks meant in my family. It meant forever. And this time, I wasn't sure I could survive it. The few weeks turned into months before I even realized it. At first, I told myself it was temporary. I was just helping Jessica adjust to being a new mom. But soon, she started dropping her son off earlier and picking him up later. Some days, she wouldn't come at all, claiming she was too exhausted or had urgent errands. My mornings became a blur of bottles, diapers, and lullabies. And my nights were filled with the hum of the baby monitor, while Jessica posted selfies from wine nights with friends. I tried to talk to my parents about it, but they just smiled like I was being dramatic. "You should be proud of helping your sister," Mom said. "You've always been so good with kids," Dad chimed in. "Family doesn't keep score, sweetheart." I wanted to scream that I wasn't keeping score. I was drowning. But every time I tried to stand my ground, guilt seeped in like poison. They'd remind me how much they sacrificed to raise me, how Jessica had real responsibilities, how I was lucky to have flexible work. Meanwhile, my own life was slipping away. I started turning down shifts at my part-time job because I couldn't juggle both. My boss warned me about reliability, and my friends stopped inviting me out after the 5th time I canceled last minute. I'd watch Jessica's car pull out of my driveway with her perfect hair and expensive stroller, and I'd feel this hollow ache in my chest, some ugly mix of resentment and shame. While rocking my nephew to sleep, I stared at his tiny face and whispered, "It's not your fault." But deep down, I knew something was breaking inside me, and I also knew if I didn't do something soon, I'd lose myself completely. It all came crashing down the morning I overslept for work. My phone was full of missed calls from my manager, and I had Jessica's baby screaming in his crib because she'd dropped him off at 6 a.m. without warning. My stomach twisted as I tried to calm him with one hand and text my boss with the other. But the damage was done. I was late again. By the end of that week, I was let go. My income, my independence, the one small piece of life I had outside my family, gone in an instant. When I told Jessica, she looked up from her phone and shrugged. "That sucks, but maybe it's for the best. You've always been good with him anyway. Maybe this is just your purpose right now." I remember staring at her, my mouth dry. My purpose? "Jessica, I need a job. I can't keep doing this for free." She actually laughed. "Your family, Maya. Family doesn't charge for babysitting." That sentence burned into me. Later that night, I brought it up to my parents, hoping for some sort of support. Mom sighed like she was exhausted just hearing me talk. "Sweetheart, your sister is under so much pressure. Can't you just help until things settle?" "Settle," I snapped. "She's been settled her whole life. I'm the only one who's not." Dad frowned. "You've always been so ungrateful. We didn't raise you to be selfish." I couldn't even reply. My chest felt tight, my throat closing around all the words I wanted to scream. After they left the room, I sat there in the dim kitchen light. listening to the refrigerator hum, feeling my entire body tremble for the first time. I wondered what would happen if I simply stopped showing up, if I just disappeared. But even that thought terrified me. Because what would I be without the people who'd trained me to serve them? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out after that night. Something inside me began to shift, not all at once, but slowly, like the quiet creak of a door opening after years of being sealed shut. I stopped answering Jessica's last-minute texts right away. If she called at midnight asking me to watch him just for a few hours, I'd let it ring. The first time I did that, I sat on my bed shaking, terrified of what she or my parents would say. But nothing happened, at least not right away, and that silence felt powerful. When I finally spoke to her again, Jessica was livid. "You're so unreliable lately," she snapped. "Do you even care about your nephew? He misses you." I bit my tongue, staring at her perfectly done nails tapping against her phone. "He's not my responsibility, Jess," I said quietly. Her eyes narrowed, like she couldn't even process the words. "Wow," she said, her voice dripping with fake pity. "You've really changed. Guess I was wrong to think you had a heart." The guilt hit hard, like it always did, but this time I didn't fold. I told myself that boundaries weren't cruelty, they were survival. Still, my parents made sure to remind me what they thought of my new attitude. Mom came by unannounced one afternoon, her tone sweet but her words sharp. "You've been distant lately, dear." Jessica's struggling. What kind of daughter ignores her own family? "I'm not ignoring anyone," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I'm just tired," Dad added quietly. "Family doesn't quit when things get hard." That sentence echoed in my head long after they left. Family doesn't quit. Maybe not, but maybe I had already quit pretending this was love. That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, one thought kept circling in my mind. What if I actually left? Would they even notice, or just find someone else to use? It happened on a Friday morning, one of those days that start ordinary and end up changing everything. I woke up to a frantic knock on my door. When I opened it, Jessica was standing there in oversized sunglasses, a suitcase by her feet, and her baby in her arms. "Hey," she said, all rushed. "I need a huge favor. It's just for the weekend." Before I could ask what was going on, she placed the baby in my arms. "I'm flying to Miami with Daniel. It's a work thing for him, and I can't take the baby. You're the only one I trust." "Jessica, I have an interview on Monday," I said, panic rising in my voice. "This weekend was supposed to be for prep. I told you about it." She rolled her eyes. "Come on, it's 2 days. You can study after he's asleep." She didn't even wait for my answer, just kissed her son's forehead and left. The sound of her heels fading down the hallway felt like a door slamming shut inside me. The weekend was a blur of sleepless nights and exhaustion. When Monday came, I looked like a ghost, dark circles, wrinkled clothes, mind foggy from 2 nights of crying and no rest. I missed my interview. I didn't even get the chance to apologize to the recruiter before they moved on. When Jessica finally returned, she was tanned, smiling, and holding a shopping bag. "You have no idea how stressful that trip was," she sighed, as if I hadn't just lost my chance at a better life. Something in me snapped. "You promised 2 days," I said, my voice trembling. "You cost me the one opportunity I had." She frowned like I was overreacting. "Don't be dramatic, Maya. You'll find another job." I needed a break. That sentence, "I needed a break," hit harder than any insult ever could, because I finally realized no one in this family would ever give me one the night after that argument. I sat in my room surrounded by silence so thick it felt like a living thing. Jessica's words echoed over and over. I needed a break. The irony was suffocating. I had spent nearly 3 decades being everyone's break, everyone's backup plan, everyone's helper. And for what? To lose jobs, dreams, and pieces of myself I couldn't get back. That night, I opened my laptop and searched for apartments far from home. Cheap ones, small ones, anywhere that didn't share a zip code with my family. I found a studio 2 towns over, barely enough space for a bed and a chair, but it was mine. I put down a deposit using what little savings I had and didn't tell a soul. Over the next few days, I moved quietly. I started taking small things, clothes, a few photos, documents. I told my parents I was working late when really I was packing boxes into my car. The guilt clawed at me with every step. My mom texted daily. Jessica's been so stressed lately. Can you check in on her? My dad called to ask why I'd been so cold. I ignored them all. The morning I left, the sun hadn't even risen yet. I stood in my empty room, the walls still holding the faint smell of baby lotion and exhaustion. I should have felt scared, but instead, I felt something new. Quiet. Real quiet. I drove away before anyone could notice. For the first time, there were no calls, no screaming, no expectations. Just me and the hum of the road. When my phone started buzzing later that day, my mom, Jessica, my dad, I turned it face down on the passenger seat and let it ring by the time they realized I was gone. I was already 3 hours away, and for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free, at least I thought I did. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. 3 days after I left, I got my first message of voicemail from my mother, her voice trembling between anger and panic. "Maya, this isn't funny. Your sister's losing her mind. She's been calling everyone. Where are you?" Then came another one, this time from my dad, sharper. "You can't just disappear like this. Family doesn't abandon family." I listened to them in my tiny new apartment, sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by unpacked boxes and the hum of an old refrigerator. Every word was guilt disguised as concern. I wanted to cry, but instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For once, their chaos was far away. I wasn't running around trying to fix it. I was just watching it burn from a distance. Jessica's messages were the worst. They started polite, "Hey, can you just text back so I know you're safe?" Then turned manipulative. "You're really going to do this to your nephew? He misses you." Finally, they became cruel. "You're pathetic. You've ruined everything." My cousin, who still lived near my parents, told me things had spiraled. Jessica had to take unpaid leave from work because she couldn't find a babysitter. My parents were exhausted trying to help, but too old to keep up. "It's chaos over there," my cousin whispered over the phone. "They're saying you've lost it, like, mentally, that you're unstable." That last part stung more than I expected. I had given up everything for them, and now I was being painted as the villain. Still, I didn't respond. I muted every chat, blocked every number, and let the silence stretch out at night. I'd lie awake listening to the quiet outside my window, crying baby. No footsteps, no shouting, just peace. But beneath that peace was something else. An ache I couldn't name. Because deep down, I knew this silence wouldn't last forever. They'd find another way to reach me. They always did. A few weeks later, I found out how far Jessica would go to drag me back into her chaos. I was scrolling through Facebook one night, half distracted, when I saw her post, my own face, smiling in an old family photo, with the caption, "My sister abandoned her family when we needed her most. Please pray for us." The comments were already in the hundreds. Some people sent her sympathy. "You're so strong, Mama. I can't imagine being left like that." Others were more skeptical. Wait, wasn't she the one always babysitting? But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Jessica had turned my absence into her tragedy, and I was the villain in her story. My phone buzzed nonstop that night. Old friends texted me, confused. My coworker from my last job sent a screenshot with a message. "Is this about you?" My hands shook so hard I could barely type. I felt exposed, like every sacrifice, every wound, every moment I'd tried to move past was being paraded in front of strangers for hours. I stared at that post, rereading the comments. Then something shifted. Instead of shame, I started to feel anger, deep, cold, righteous anger. For years, I'd swallowed my pain to keep the peace. Now Jessica was rewriting my story in public, and I couldn't let her win again. The next day, I made my own post. I didn't mention her name, but I told the truth, how I'd raised my nephew for free while working 2 jobs. How I'd lost everything because family helps family. I ended it with one line. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a toxic family is walk away. Within hours, it exploded. Thousands of reactions. Strangers flooding the comments saying, "You did the right thing." For the first time, people saw my side. But I also knew if Jessica saw it too, this wasn't over, and I was right. It was only the beginning. After my post went viral, everything exploded. My phone became a battlefield. Messages, calls, DMS from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were kind, telling me I was brave for standing up for myself. but others were cruel. "You're heartless," one stranger wrote. "How could you abandon a baby?" I wanted to explain, to make them understand, but I knew it wouldn't matter. People always pick the version of the story that makes them feel superior. Then came the call from my cousin again. "Maya, things are bad," she whispered. "Jessica's husband moved out. He told your parents he's done with her drama. And your mom's been sick stress, probably. They're all falling apart." I pressed the phone to my ear, numb. I should have felt vindicated. They'd finally been forced to face the consequences of their choices. But instead, all I felt was this aching emptiness, like my soul had been scraped raw that night. I sat on my apartment floor with a single lamp on, scrolling through old photos, me holding my nephew, my parents smiling at birthdays, Jessica with that perfect grin. It hit me how much of my life had revolved around trying to earn love that was never real. I realized I'd built my entire identity on being useful to people, who never saw me as anything more than a tool. I cried not the angry, bitter kind, but deep, exhausted sobs that left me shaking. I cried for the years I'd lost, for the person I could have been, for the little girl who just wanted someone to say thank you. When I finally stopped, the silence felt heavy again, but different this time. It wasn't peace. It was loneliness. And as much as I hated to admit it, part of me still missed them, but I also knew I could never go back, not after everything that had been broken. It had been nearly 3 months since I left when I heard the knock. It wasn't gentle, it was sharp, insistent, the kind that makes your stomach drop before your mind catches up. When I opened the door, Jessica was standing there. She looked nothing like the sister I remembered, hair messy, eyes swollen, makeup streaked like she hadn't slept in days. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. "Maya," she breathed, stepping forward. "We need to talk." I froze. My instinct screamed to slam the door, but curiosity rooted me to the floor. She walked in like she owned the place, her eyes darting around my small apartment before landing back on me. "I can't do this anymore," she said, voice trembling. "Mom's sick, Dad's stressed. Daniel left me, everything's falling apart. I need my sister back." Something inside me cracked, but not in the way she expected. "You don't need your sister Jess," I said quietly. "You need your servant back." Her expression hardened instantly. "That's not fair. You abandoned us. You made us look like monsters online, did I?" I asked. "Or did people finally see what I've been living through for years?" She flinched. For the first time, there was no comeback, no manipulation, just silence. I could see it in her eyes. She knew I was right, but she'd rather drown than admit it. Finally, she snapped, "You'll regret this, Maya. Family is all you have. When they're gone, you'll have nothing." I took a step closer, my voice steady. "Then I guess it's time I learned to live with nothing." She stared at me for a long moment, tears glistening but pride sealing her lips. Then she turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her so hard the walls shook. For a few seconds, I just stood there, staring at the door. My heart was racing, but not from fear. It was the first time in my life I'd ever felt completely in control, and I knew this was far from the end. A week after Jessica's visit, I woke up to hundreds of notifications on my phone. At first, I thought it was spam until I saw my name trending on a local forum. Someone had linked my post to Jessica's earlier one, connecting the dots. People were arguing, some defending her, others defending me. The whole messy truth was unraveling in public, and there was no stopping it now. At first I panicked. My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. She's the hero we all needed. No, she's heartless. Classic golden child drama. It felt surreal, strangers dissecting my life like it was an episode of a show they'd binge-watched overnight. But as I kept reading, something unexpected happened. The support outweighed the hate. People shared their own stories. Sue had been used, manipulated, guilt-tripped by family under the same phrase, "You owe us," for the first time. I realized I wasn't alone. Then came the call from my parents. My mother's voice was icy. "Maya, take it down. Right now, people are gossiping. Your sister is humiliated." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I told the truth." "Truth," she hissed. "You've embarrassed this family. Do you know how hard it is for us to show our faces?" I closed my eyes. Maybe now you know how it felt for me to live without one. There was silence on the line. Then, the soft sound of her crying, though I couldn't tell if it was pain or manipulation. My father took the phone next. "Enough is enough, Maya. Delete the post and come home." I almost laughed. Come home. That place was never home. It was a cage built from guilt. "I'm done, Dad," I said quietly. "You can hate me if you need to, but I'm finally free." Then I hung up. My hands were still shaking, but this time, not from fear, it was from relief. And as I sat there, staring at my phone screen lighting up with messages of support from strangers, I knew I had finally taken back my story. It's been almost a year since that final phone call. And sometimes, when I wake up to sunlight spilling across my tiny apartment, I still can't believe how quiet my life has become. No crying baby. No guilt-ridden texts. No one calling me selfish for wanting to breathe. Just peace, the kind that feels almost foreign after years of chaos. I have a steady job now. It doesn't pay much, but it's mine, earned on my own terms. I started therapy too, something my parents always mocked as self-pity, disguised as healing. My therapist told me that trauma often hides in obedience, that being the helpful one was how I survived. For the first time, someone saw me not as a daughter, not as a sister, but as a person who'd been hurt and was still worth saving. She occasionally tries to reach out with vague, guilt-laced messages. "Mom misses you." Or, "You'd love how big your nephew's getting." I don't respond. I don't hate her anymore, just don't owe her my energy. My parents, from what I hear, still think I've changed. They're right. I finally have, sometimes. I catch myself remembering the old Mitha girl who stayed quiet to keep the peace, who measured her worth in how much she could give before breaking. I grieve her a little. She deserved better than what she got. But I also thank her because she's the one who finally had the courage to leave. Last week, I walked past a playground and saw a young woman juggling a stroller, a phone, and exhaustion written all over her face. For a moment our eyes met, and I saw myself in her ache of being taken for granted. I wanted to tell her, "You're allowed to stop," because disappearing wasn't running away. It was finally choosing myself. And maybe, just maybe, that's what freedom really looks like.